Hey guys, welcome back to another video with Coach Miriam Claire, and today we're going to be discussing why the anxious attachment style is attracted to the avoidant attachment style, which I would say is probably the worst combination if we're going to look at attachment styles and compatibility there, because typically the anxious attachment style likes to have more interaction, more intimacy, a lot of closeness, and they like to have a lot of like affirmation and just reassurance that the relationship is okay. Now with the avoidant, they have completely opposite needs. So the avoidant attachment style likes to be very independent and have their own space. It's not to say that they don't like closeness or they don't like intimacy. I would say that they're just not very comfortable with it, and I think both of them almost have these fears around intimacy, because the anxious attachment style is like almost always wanting more and more and more and a lot, whereas the avoidance attachment style doesn't really tend to feel the need for that much, and so the balance there is really off, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail very soon. So basically, one of the huge reasons why we can attract certain people is because of our childhood and what we're familiar with from the early days of our life and throughout our life and our experiences. And so if as a child our emotional needs weren't met, we will tend to go about our life searching for people, not really consciously, but attracting certain people into our lives that reflect the same treatment that we had as a child. And so we might, be very comfortable with having friends or close relationships with people that also don't provide for our emotional needs, or the people that are in a life that actually will feel maybe uncomfortable about being around them because it will feel unfamiliar. And so this dynamic plays a big part in attachment styles and in who we attract and why we attract them. So basically, with the avoidant attachment style, they will never really be able to fulfill the needs of an anxious attachment style unless they go through their own work within themselves and do a lot of work on their attachment style, and also if the anxious person does as well. So sort of creating more balance within the relationship dynamic, instead of it being, for example, like 80%, 20%, where the anxious attachment style is investing 80% of energy into the relationship, and the avoidant attachment style is only investing about 20%, which is a very unbalanced dynamic. So going into that in a bit more detail, this is what happens within a dating scenario. It typically, the connection likes to be balanced, and so within the energy field. And so initially when you meet someone, when we're starting out, you're both bringing the same amount of energy, because you both have the similar amount of curiosity about the other person, and it's a whole new dynamic, and you're unaware of the other person's attachment styles and their behaviours and all those little things. And so you typically come in with your attachment style. So the avoidant will be very independent and confident and maybe flirt a little bit, and the anxious will be very interested in the other person, very curious, and so naturally, initially, they will have that connection. Slowly, over time, as their attachment styles start to come up, which do happen, it does happen in a relationship, romantic attraction type situation, the anxious person will naturally, start speaking more, really wanting to share and connect with this other person. And the avoidant attachment style will naturally start to pull back and perhaps just ask questions instead of actually talking about themselves and sharing who they really are. And so the anxious attachment style will get these signs that the avoidant is really interested in them because they're asking these questions, but really they're actually not really revealing very much of themselves. And so already what's happening is the anxious person is becoming more invested. They're giving more energy to the relationship dynamic because they have shared more about themselves. They become more vulnerable per se and open to the connection. And so slowly over time, as this begins to happen more and more, so the anxious attachment investing more and more energy into the relationship, then the avoidant, they'll start to build up some resentment and their needs will start to rise, and they'll start to really have more and more desire for this other person because they're pulling away. And so already perhaps you can see there's this almost chasing dynamic where the avoidant is running away and the anxious is chasing after the avoidant. And so then what can start to happen is the anxious could actually start to invest some negative energy because of the resentments and because of their needs getting to this level of beyond comfort. It's beyond what they can really kind of handle, and they aren't able to necessarily fulfill them for themselves, those emotional needs. And so that unhealthy energy starts to come into play, which then of course pushes the avoidant even further away. And so the avoidant is now investing more energy perhaps into their friends and work or whatever they've got going on in their life. And so it's just a recipe for disaster, really, unfortunately, unless one or both of the partners have done a lot of work on themselves and they're very aware of their triggers to actually stop themselves before they do certain behaviors that might push or trigger the other person. And so that's basically it. It does seem a bit doom and gloom with this pairing, and unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, I think it is one of the worst pairings, even though they are attracted to each other. But thankfully, in doing the work within ourselves and inner healing and slowly changing our environment, slowly becoming more familiar with healthy people and healthy behaviors and secure attachment style traits, we can change our own attachment style, and we can change our own behaviors and our thought patterns and our feelings that play into that dynamic as well. And all in all, start to actually be attracted to people that are healthy for us. So there is hope, people, and I am available for private coaching, relationship coaching, life coaching. I'm a qualified counsellor and coach, and I would love to chat with you and help you in the best way that I can with what you may be struggling with. And please feel free to give me a like and a subscribe and share this with your friends. And if there's any particular content or questions that you have, please let me know, and I'll do my best to create more videos for you in the very near future. Take care. Bye.